Welcome to the CFL Outsider, a short series of totally impartial hot takes, odd takes, and generally unconventional opinions on the CFL and Canadian football, with your host and presenter, Old Man Shouting at Clouds.
Hey kids, welcome back to the CFL Outsider, Week 12. What a homer! I remain, as ever, your 100% impartial, fairly impressed host and presenter, Old Man Shouting at Clouds. And yeah, it was a tough week for the road teams this week. All home wins. Before I really get into it this week, I'm going to do my beg early, because this is important, and if you're enjoying this, you certainly can help me. I know it's always at the end, and everybody says it, and it's easy to just bounce to the next video and ignore what's being said. But you have a lot of power out there as the viewers to really help me get this channel going and get it out to people that want to see it. So please, if you're enjoying it, subscribe. That's huge. That helps a lot. The likes help, of course. But if you know anybody else, share it and at least get them a chance to look at it. And then the other thing is, I keep saying, leave a comment. Those three things. The comments help me get better if you tell me what you like and don't like. But more importantly, those three things are, from what I'm told, what the algorithm loves and what it uses to spread this far and wide. So please, if you're enjoying this, subscribe it, share it. A like helps, but more important, a comment to get this channel growing. Anyway, on to what we got to talk about this week. I will say, right off the top, I was impressed with the command center this weekend. I know there were some calls that people were complaining about. There was the interception, not an interception in the Winnipeg game. There were a couple others, but frankly, from what I understand, the CFL Command Center's mandate is to overturn things that are clear and obvious in real time. And I don't think any of the plays this weekend were. So I liked the way the control center was making the calls. If they can perform consistently through the rest of the season the way they have on this past weekend, I, for one, will be a happy fan. On to the games themselves. So let's start with the game one, Thursday night. Saskatchewan19 at Toronto 20. Defense may win championships, but a rouge wins a football game. During the pregame show on this, Milt ran a 40. And they were dissing him about his time, giving him a real hard time. But he was a 54-year-old man in a suit, and he ran a 5.33. That's not bad at all. I'm impressed. I don't know that I ran 5.33 in my 30s. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, Ralph Hawley for the Argos had an excellent game, and a couple of just extremely well-timed and well-performed bull rushes. As I've said before in this one, I like a good bull rush, and he certainly made it happen. Now, unfortunately, he made it happen against Logan Ferland, who, this is jersey, I don't know if you can see the number here. Logan Ferland's jersey I'm wearing, because I wear it in tribute to him. He's one of the better Canadian linemen in the league, I believe. But he had a tough game. He missed some blocks, and those two bull rushes carried him right back into the quarterback at wrong times, messed up plays. Good play on one side, unfortunately not so good from Logan. What else do we have? Toronto's defense certainly had Trevor Harris just baffled for basically the last three quarters of the game. They took away the short game, and the Riders were just never able to adjust and make anything really happen. Although I have to admit, I also felt like the officials either missed or were choosing to ignore a large number of holding calls on both the offensive lines in this game. There were some fairly blatant ones, especially on one play, one of the long passes to Coxie that set up another one of Toronto's attempts to get into the end zone. I think they settled for a field goal on it. But basically the offensive tackle did tackle the contained man, wrapped his arms around him and just ran him right into the middle of the pile. Freed up the quarterback to get open out to the left there and complete the pass that did have an impact on the game. Like I said, it was called fairly on both sides, but I thought there was a lot let go. I also, well, first of all, you got to give huge kudos to the Rider defense in the second half for building that wall on their goal line. They turned Toronto back from inside the 5 and basically almost on the 1, what was it, 4 or 5, maybe 6 times. It was just amazing what they managed to accomplish there. All in for naught in the end because the offense just couldn't seem to get anything going. I also got a kick out of, I noticed Thomas Bertrand Houdon with the Riders, their backup running back. I said last week, kudos to him for the first one being to wear a Guardian cap in the games. And he had it on again this week, which I think was great. But the team was celebrating at one point by head bumping, and it looked like he's got a little bit of an advantage with the cap bumping helmets with other teammates. I guess the last thing that I have is I'm not sure if Andre Proulx is working with a different team of officials this year. In the past, the games he officiates and that he's in charge of have generally been some of the best officiated games in the league. But this year it's been different. They were the team of officials that was quick on the whistles that caused the command center to take an awful lot of flack, and they don't seem quite up to par this year. In particular, I mean, it's a small thing, but rules are rules and they should be called, and it bothered me that at one point, well, at 2 points actually, 2 different players, you had Carey and you had the Argos quarterback take their helmets off on the playing field when they were frustrated with a play. That's a penalty of misconduct. It was right in front of the officials and never got called either time. So I'm not sure about consistency from the on-field officials there. I'm hoping that Andre gets that sorted out with his team. But let's go on to Game 2. Hamilton 23 at Winnipeg 26. The only thing a prevent defense prevents is you from holding on to win the game. Yeah, they just... The Tiger Cats had Zach flustered and frustrated for most of the game by putting a whole bunch of pressure on him. And then down at the end of the game, when it mattered, 3 minutes to go, suddenly they dropped back into a prevent defense, lots of spaces out there with 3-man rush, no pressure on Zach, and they let him march down the field and put up the winning points. I wonder how Hamilton's feeling about Chris Jones now as their new unpaid defensive coordinator. Feel like he earned what he makes in that game, basically. I do have to say, though, there was a nice play from Kenny Lawler early in the game, about, I think, 2/3 of the way through the first quarter. Pass to him, he slipped on the cut and went down. Ball was going straight to the DB behind him, and somehow while he was going to the ground, he managed to reach out and bat the ball out of harm's way and prevent the interception. So nicely done there, Mr. Lawler. Let's see, what else? Oh, I knew that that Brady was going to have himself a good game. I think he ended up 120-some yards or whatnot, but he had the head slap going in the first quarter. And when that gets going, you know he's running hard. So I knew it was going to be a rough game for the Hamilton D from that point on. I also noticed that James Tuck took a really stupid and obvious penalty, a late out-of-bounds hit on Lucky Whitehead on one of the punt returns. No reason for it at all, gave up 15 yards. But then Bailey Fellmate of the Bombers decided he had to come in and protect his teammate and retaliated and took his own misconduct, and they were offsetting. And I'm always amazed that players just can't seem to control themselves. When there's a situation like that your team gets an advantage, you just let it go and walk away and take it, and yet somehow they just can't seem to do it. I mean, I've played. I know how high the emotions get in the game. But football isn't like some other sports. Football teaches you controlled aggression. You play to the whistle and then you stop. And good players know that. Now, I mentioned about Brady getting himself going. It also occurred to me during this game, there really is a reason that he is as good as he is. He runs a little more straight up than a lot of running backs do, but with balance and power. And he doesn't, if he breaks through the scrum at the middle, he's got the balance to stay up and get a good run at it. Others, like A.J. Ouellette in Saskatchewan and some of the other power runners, they come through that, and by the time they've got such a heavy lean forward to pound their way through it, that they if they get no more resistance, they fall forward. Brady doesn't do that. He reminds me a lot of Andrew Harris. You can see, I don't know if he had that style before he started playing with Harris, but I see a lot of influence there. I also have to say, something with Zach still just is not right. I'm not sure what's going on, but he is not playing like the Zach of old. He's getting better, and they're making some more completions and whatnot, but it's just not good. What else did I have to say? Oh, I guess just the last one on this game was, there was that fumble where Bird had the punt return, and it was fumbled and scooped up by, I think it was Avery, wasn't it? Yeah, Ayers. Michael Ayers scooped it up and took it in for a touchdown, I think 27, 28 yards or something. But the hit on that play came from Tony Jones, and that was just bone-crushing that knocked that ball out. Beautiful play there. So let's go to the Game 3, the Saturday night game. BC 27 at Ottawa 34. 2 weeks of practice is better than one, but yeah. Nathan looked better this week, but still not great. And Ottawa deserves respect. Ottawa is a hell of a team this year. They are playing extremely well. Although I have to say, at one point in this game, Rod Black felt that he had to tell they were talking about the history of the Ottawa franchises, and he felt he had to tell the audience that one time, at one point, the CFL had 2 teams named the Rough Riders. And I felt like a very, very old man. And what else? Oh, speaking of old, bonus points for anyone old enough to get this reference. Apparently, Javon Santos-Knox is one of them there flying yogis, because that field goal that he blocked, he went up there and just levitated for, it seemed like seconds, waiting for the kick. Also want to say, and it's not the first time I've said it, but it bears repeating, Drew Brown is a gunslinger. He's going to be so much fun to watch. On the not-so-good side, with Armstead, he played a good game, had not a huge, I think he was only like about 2 yards a rush, but they used him enough that he got 50, 60 yards-ish and that, but he also had the one fumble, and you could see it coming because he wasn't carrying the football all tucked in, covering the tip the way you should, and locked in your 3 points of contact, your forearm, your bicep, and your hand, and then your chest here too. No, he was carrying it basically like a loaf of bread. He had his hand wrapped around the center of the football. You could see that fumble coming, and it did. Now, that was his one play he was doing that. The rest he had it right, so I don't know what slipped his mind there, but it shows how easy it is to make a mistake and cost your team. Now, I have to say kudos to Red Blacks defensive back Alonzo Adai, for there was one point where he made a tackle on Katoy, Javon Katoy, who's a load he is, and he slid down and got him by the ankle and held on for dear life while about 5 or 6 other Red Blacks missed tackling him, and finally they got him down. So full kudos to him on that. And full kudos to Javon Katoy for being able to slip and slide and slip past about 4 tackles while he had one ankle in a death grip from Alonzo Adai. It was a 3-yard play, but it was such a nice example of good football want to. I just loved it. BC just couldn't seem to get any kind of a pass rush going. I don't know what was happening with them, but they had nothing. Brown had all night to stand back there and throw the ball. If they can't get something better this weekend, even though the game's out in Victoria, I don't see a big difference. And I do say, this is just the way I see things, but Baron Miles, to me, he's starting to look a little bit sort of school marmish, the way he's out there wearing his glasses down like this and looking over the top of them. It's just me, the way my mind works. 2 other things on this. The Red Blacks did put together, I think it was a 16-play, 70-yard drive in that fourth quarter. It took 9 minutes off the clock to go down and score and just seal the game away. And that was some very pretty football. And then my last thought on this game was just Drew Brown. If you saw his post-game interview, he gives a good, honest interview. I like that. Not the cliches or anything, but actually talks to the reporter and gives answers. Good job, Drew. Game 4. Edmonton 17 at Montreal 21. Retro Rewind. Yeah, the Als rode in their 1974 jerseys. And I must say, the Als looked lost and unfocused during the first half of that game. Couldn't tell what was going to happen next. Didn't seem to be playing well. Whatever adjustments they made at halftime, it was like flipping a switch, because it was a completely different game. 180-degree flip around. And again, good coaching. Impressive to see. But on the retro, just because a jersey's old doesn't mean it looks good. My opinion. Just saying. And talking about how they flipped the script around in the second half there, the Elks had -2 yards in the third quarter. That was their total offense. Very impressive by the Montreal D and the Montreal offense, taking the ball and running it down there. But I do think, well, not running it, passing it. They didn't run that much. Fletcher didn't have that good a game. However, I do think, though, that they went for their 2-point converts a bit early. They were trying to catch up, get a field goal, within a field goal or a field goal ahead and that sort of thing. And in the end, they would have been better off if they just stuck with kicking the converts. Would have put them in a better position at the end of the game. Wouldn't have been quite so close. And that's about it for the games. So what else do I have to talk about here for this week? Well, let's see. I've got to say Glenn Suter's calls on the games have been much, much better this year. In the past, you'd get into a situation like a team deep in their own end, and the analysis would be the same as it had been for every other game with that situation for forever. This year, he's not. This year, he's being far less repetitive, and he's giving some actually very good and insightful analysis of the games. And I'm enjoying the games he calls much more this year than I have in the past. So thank you, Glenn. Good job on doing your job well there. We've also seen, I thought, this year, three good examples of why, no matter how good a player is, you don't want to rush him into the lineup. You've got to give them some time to practice. I mean, we had back in, I think it was week 3, Saskatchewan was at Hamilton. They just picked up Marcus Sales from BC, put him in at that boundary corner, and he got torched for two long touchdown passes, just in too early, hadn't got used to the team yet. And last week we saw the whole Nathan Rourke debacle, saw how that turned out. This week we saw in the Montreal game, Austin Mack, newly fresh back from the NFL, and they had him in there ready to go, and it cost them. There were at least 3 or 4, maybe more drives that got snuffed out just because the timing wasn't there between him and Fajardo. Either the timing wasn't there or he broke the wrong way, different things. So teams really should learn. I know you get somebody who's a new, exciting addition to the team, all kinds of talent, but give them a chance to do what they can do. Let them practice and learn well enough. You can't just hop into a system. Yeah. And just one last thought. It's been a bad week, couple of weeks actually, for watching players get taken off the field in ambulances. We've had it happen basically 4 times in the last 2 weeks, and it's scary, and I hate to see it. And thank goodness all the players seem to have come through okay. No long-term effects from what happened. But it is a reminder that the men that do this, the men that are out there, they're playing a game for our entertainment, and they're putting their bodies at risk. So let's enjoy it, and let's maybe not bitch quite so loud about the changes that are made to the rules to protect player safety. I want all the players out there to be playing as long as they possibly can and not taken out because of some ridiculous injury that doesn't need to happen. So that's about it for this week. If you've enjoyed this, please share with anyone else you feel like may enjoy this. Subscribe yourself and leave a comment. Those 3 things are the best way to help me grow this channel and get a lot more eyes and ears on it. Eyeballs and earballs, as they say. I appreciate any support with that. Until next week, get the hell off my lawn!